Welcome back to Deep Route Conversations. I am Ayir Asante, and today is our third episode. I am extremely excited and grateful to have this opportunity to bring not only a great guest, but a family member to me, right? A role model, someone who I've kind of molded my path after. Man of many talents. He has a lot to talk about with his process. And, without further ado, I'll introduce Khalil Wilkes.
What's going on, man? What's going down? It's a real moment.
Yeah, this is real.
On the podcast, finally, man. Thanks for having me.
Nah, thanks for coming in. And, we're in Brooklyn right now, so this is really cool. Last episode we were in Charlotte. First one was in New Jersey, in my house. So, we're getting around. We're getting this stuff done. And I'm just super excited to bring this episode to you guys. Right now, I just want to say, like, comment, and subscribe. That helps us out tremendously. We've been feeling the love 100%. It's been happening really fast. We're almost at 400 subscribers. We have a giveaway at 500 subscribers. We're going to do a big gift giveaway at 1,000 subscribers. And, the likes, comments, and that's how we kind of, gauge the feedback. And we want to bring you guys the type of content that you guys want to watch and, bring up guests that you guys want to listen to. But, just to get into today, we're going to start with you. You can kind of, talk a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how'd you get into football? Because, you're a football player. Mm-hmm. So, let's just get into that a little bit.
Yeah, so from Teaneck, New Jersey, born and raised. Came from an athletic family, Dad played at St. Peter's Prep as well as at Rutgers on their football team. My uncle played at Texas Tech and also a little bit professionally on the basketball end. So athletics wasn't something that was brand new to the household. Just on my end, with my overall anatomy of being, 6'2", about 290 back then, pushing close to 3 bills. Yeah. It just made sense to go the football route rather than basketball. But those are kind of my two main sports. Also played a little bit of baseball too. So yeah. I was a multi-sport athlete. But by the time I came to prep, it was time to lock in. Played football and basketball there, and stuck on football for a little bit longer than all the other ones.
And then, just to start with, you kind of mentioned, playing multiple sports. I know there has been a little bit of a debate whether, you should specialize in one sport and focus on that. Do you kind of feel like playing multiple sports gave you a kind of a advantage, especially like I know a lot of people talk about footwork, translating from basketball to football, and, I don't know about like baseball. I never played, but like maybe hand-eye, I don't know. Do you think that kind of had anything to do with it?
Yeah. I think you can definitely get transferable skills in other sports other than football that's going to help you in football. For me, it was basketball, just having to guard somebody, right? It was very much something I was simulated on the offensive line, making sure that your man doesn't go past you to hit the quarterback. I like to think a lot of my footwork and some of the things that set me apart from some of the other guys that I was competing against that might have been 6'5", 300 pounds. Yeah. It's the fact that I kind of had some feet on me, and that came from basketball drills, suicide drills, sliding, you know what I'm saying, staying low, leverage and all that. But, man, when I even look at, like, other sports I could have played, because I mentioned football, basketball, and baseball, but as an offensive lineman, like, hindsight's 2020, but I would have loved to have been a wrestler. Yeah. Especially as an offensive lineman, it's a lot of transferable skills, kind of being in that same leverage standpoint, knowing how to move a guy from, point A to point B against their will. Yeah. There's a lot of things that transfers from wrestling, and I'm like, dang, if I had that in the bag too.
Today's video is brought to you by Senor Sabor Snacks. You guys can follow them on their social media. We have their link in our bio. You guys can check them out. They have a bunch of great snacks. They're healthy for you. They're delicious. Today I brought the vanilla flan flavor. We're going to try it out. But thank you guys for sponsoring us. Our first official sponsor, taking care of us. And, get yours here.
Yeah, over for them.
That's a great one. I think we had a DN at Holy Cross, Ben Whitley. He's on the Arizona Cardinals right now. And, bro, he had one of the craziest bends, right? Like, he could get around any corner and, like, stay up and everything. Yep. And, bro, he was, like, a state champion wrestler. And we always talk about it. That's one of those things, like, especially, I feel like you guys are damn near in the clutch, all the time. Yeah. Like, you guys doing that.
Pretty much in a grapple the whole game. So, yeah.
No, I think a lot of people kind of undermine that, the experience. And I think it's just also, a mental exercise. I don't think a lot of people talk about that. Like you having to learn a different sport that has different rules and different techniques, a different set of movements and stuff like that. Like in basketball, obviously it's a different type of conditioning, right? It's a lot more jumping, a lot of footwork. Being a lot more calculated with that type of stuff. But it does translate, like you said, like with you being able to stay in front of people with a lot of the receiver work that I do, a lot of stuff that we talk about is with our release work is like you have a basketball in your hand, right? We say it's basketball and turf, getting open, getting separation is just, same way. So I think it's really interesting to get into that. And then you even bringing up wrestling, I think that's a really big point just because, for my position, it really wouldn't matter as much. I feel like, hand fighting a little bit, but for you guys,
that's everything.
Damn near what
everything.
It is. Yeah. So, was there really a choice for you in high school? Like, did you?
No.
Yeah, like
absolutely no choice. My dad, he went to St. Peter's Prep. It was pretty much no choice. He told me probably when I was around 9 or 10 that I was going to be going to St. Peter's Prep. I didn't know what St. Peter's Prep was. I didn't know where it was at.
Yeah.
But the one thing he did tell me is like, it was going to be all boys school. You might not like that part of it, which I really didn't, but you're gonna have a lot better football and basketball experience. And I was all in for that. He wasn't playing about that.
Yeah.
Had some good times on the football and basketball court for sure at Prep.
So for your freshman and sophomore year, did you commute? Or like how did you get to Prep?
Yeah, that commute, everybody that's, took that trek over to Prep, whether you live in Bergen County, Essex County. When I was there, we even had Savon Huggins that was coming from Jackson, New Jersey.
Yeah.
So, and that's, I always tell people,
Flags,
when people say, where's Jackson is over by Great Adventure. Imagine going from there to Jersey City. Every day, right? And like for me, it was going on the train in Anderson Street in Hackensack. Shout out to Anderson Street, Hackensack. Used to be my stopping grounds. Taking the NJ Transit train over to Hoboken Terminal. Then from there, taking a light rail, from Hoboken Terminal right through to over there by Exchange Place and taking that, couple blocks walk. And it made me definitely grow up to a man, at the age of 13, 14, getting on those trains with everybody going all over the place, whether, to the city or other places in Jersey, putting on that suit and getting ready to not only enrich myself in the academics of Prep and the attire of Prep, you know what I'm saying? And also how much it was about, being a man for others, but also being a man of your word, being there on time, showing up, as your best self. It was a big transition, but I got right into it.
Yeah.
Right from freshman year, they had me out on the varsity field. I was playing on the 2005 state championship team on the football side, and then in basketball, I was on the JV team as a freshman. So it wasn't too much time to transition because I was right out there.
Yeah, right into the fire. I think that you made a great point. Going to Prep, obviously. I went there. You went there. Your father went there. Lokesh, he went there. So, a lot of our, at least for me, a lot of my network builds and stems from St. Peter's Prep, and going to Holy Cross, which is another Jesuit institution. I kind of found a lot of similarities between what our mission statement was and kind of like what was emphasized at the school. And then I found a lot of similarities as well with someone that went to, some of my teammates were from St. Xavier and St. Ignatius, stuff like that, other Jesuit, high schools. And it kind of made me laugh, right? Because I feel like when you're going through it, everyone's telling you how worth it is, like how worth it is. And the power of, getting up early and doing stuff that you don't want to do and, putting in the work now so you don't have to do it later. And, a lot of it's just like, all right, man, like whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of times, I feel like everyone wanting to transfer at some point in your prep career is like, it's part of your.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? It's part of your experience, but like.
And all love to the school. But it's just like, it's a lot sometimes.
It's just, bro, like you're 14, you're going to an all boys school wearing a suit or, it's just like, come on, man. And then now. Like what I don't know, it's like 75% of the school commutes. You know what I mean? Like not a lot of the school population is from Jersey City. So it's like, more people than not are coming into the school and not a lot of people are able to get rides from their parents or anything like that. So, get on the train, each stop, there's more and more kids in suits and turtlenecks and blazers with a St. Peter's Prep logo on. And, you kind of build community through that. But also like, I think it just adds to another kind of specific experience with like all my friends were from all over the state, right? So like I'm hanging out especially like when you got to drive and everything like that. Now I'm in Warren hanging out with Chase, or I'm in North Brunswick with Masai, or we're in Union with Kyrie. Like it kind of got me a little bit more well versed within the state. Kind of seeing different communities, seeing different people from different backgrounds, but we all kind of get there, and everyone's in that same uniform. And I don't know, I feel like it just prepares you for life. I mean, especially during those formative years. You're really a young man, but from 14 to 18, you're really becoming, kind of who you are. You're setting that foundation for who you are and who you're going to be, and that's just in life. And then we go into football, with the program that we had there, with Big Hansen and all the stuff that he's put in, and I think it's really interesting. I think it's really cool that like you can talk about your experience, and a lot of stuff that you're talking about still rings true for me. Still rings true for other people and other alumni of the school, and
to my dad, even
you know what I mean, like
years before us.
I think that's pretty cool, and it kind of speaks to the importance, and it's kind of like timeless, like the stuff that we talked about, being a man for others, right? Like just seeing the world for more than just what benefits you. Being open to growth. I think I always talk about that. I remember in high school specifically, they used to say open to growth, and I used to be like, bro, like, what are you talking about? Like, but there's so many times where I've had conversations and mentioned, like, bro, you have to be open to growth. Like, you have to be willing to learn here and, get better. And so, yeah, but now, speaking to you, being thrown on the field early, a state championship team, how was that transition for you, coming from TNAC, playing ball in TNAC to now, you're basically at an all-star team, what I mean? Kind of what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was everything I really dreamed of, because, when my dad was a coach at Prep for 20-something years. So he was a coach at Prep for about a decade even before I got there. I'll probably say around sixth grade, I started going to the games, seeing guys like Rashawn Jackson and Mike Brown play for Prep, Leo Farine, all those guys, legends at Prep, and seeing how they put on the Prep jersey and went out there and balled out, and seeing, their example made me, once I went to Prep, be like, I want to have my stamp here. You know what I'm saying? I want to get a state championship. I definitely want to get Division I scholarships, but like, it's so funny now. I talk to kids in high school and they're already thinking college and NFL. Like my NFL was Prep low key when I was like in eighth grade. I'm I'm gonna go to Prep, even though I'm from Bergen County. I'm not going to Bergen. I'm not going to Bosco. And I'm gonna see them eventually. Whether that's at MetLife. Back then it was Giant Stadium. So yeah, it was surreal. At first they had me on the freshman squad. I was doing cats in. And then they were like, listen, you're too damn big and talented. You know what I'm saying? Try to come up to varsity. I had two varsity starts before the state playoffs. One of them was against Dixon High. No offense to Dixon High, but they weren't that great. School out in Jersey City. Kind of got my feet wet. Coach Hansen always makes the joke, because I like went offsides like the first 2 or 3 snaps. I was nervous as hell. But once I got started, man, I was like, this is it. This is what I need to be at. Started that game. Started against, I believe it was Notre Dame High School. And then we started going through the state playoffs. Mess around, made it to the state finals, and now we're in Giant Stadium playing against Don Bosco, who at the time was a top 10 team, and they at the time were like
rolling.
They were it. You know what I'm saying? They probably had like 3 or 4 state championships in a row. I think Bergen might have won one in between there, but like Bosco was walling out during that time. For us to go out there, and I don't know if you saw the game, it was like Hansen's big speech beforehand that was on MSG, game of the week. He's out here, it's like, it's either us or them, you know what I'm saying, all together, and we go out there and get a dub. Right at the time that we're starting to come back, because we were down, we started coming back. Snow flurries started coming down. It like felt like a magical moment. Won a state championship. Definitely one of the rings that I definitely put towards the front, man, because that was just one of those situations. You're at Prep with guys, this might be their last football game ever. Right? They might not have college or NFL goals or aspirations, but they're showing up every single day, same way you are.
100%.
You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Going through those same hard workouts as you. So for you to see that type of camaraderie and people going after it, even if they don't have all the benefits that come from it, right? We're going to get into NIL and stuff like that, but like literally doing it for the love of the game. I was Mr. High School football, bro. Like back then, especially people my age, they know the show Two-A-Days. I was like Mr. High School football, Friday Night Lights. Prep was everything for me at the time.
Sure. No, I mean, and that's a great point. I think a lot of people kind of undermine like what it's like to be a part of a team. Where like obviously, even at St. Peter's Prep, right? It's like, you have your heavy hitters, you have your guys that are going to play and everything like that. But I think some people kind of overemphasize, and they think that everyone is going. And like you said, I mean, even for some of the dudes, like, who doesn't want to go play college football, but not everyone has that opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Like, not everyone's getting recruited and everything like that. So it's like the dude who, wants to go, and he knows that this might be, like you said, I mean, it's kind of even crazy to think about, like, knowing it's going to be your last game ever. Like, what do you want to be remembered as? Like, who do you want to be remembered as? Is defined by what you do on the field. And it's like, you may have, all right, I'm going to go to college and do this, but like, I think a lot of people, especially now, stuff is bigger. You have social media and, you have, like you said, 8-year-olds talking about, I want to go to the league and stuff like that. But back then, I mean, prep was kind of the top of the top for a lot of people. You growing up with your dad as a coach, was your dad always coaching you?
Yeah, but he was a defensive back coach, right? And I'm an offensive lineman, so we didn't, interact that much. But like, he was over there at the team drills, still being like, "Hey, I saw you do this over there. Like, hey man, you need to have a stronger punch on that pass set." Yeah. He was still talking his stuff, and half time be like, "Bro, you never played offensive line. Like, what are you doing coaching me up? You're a DB."
Yeah.
But it was good to have him there, and obviously the legend that he was at prep and off to Rutgers kind of gave me that blueprint of being like, if I do this the right way, you know what I'm saying, my parents don't have to pay for college. So.
Yeah. I think obviously there's a little bit of crossover, but not too much. But did you enjoy the fact that you guys played different positions? Like, I understand that, like, he's done a lot and he has built his own name and everything like that. But you being a lineman, you're like, all right, I can kind of like, did you enjoy the fact that you can kind of make your own path? Like, obviously, your dad's a coach and everything like that, but it's not like, no one's saying like you're getting favoritism because he's your coach or anything like that. You kind of get to, build your own way. Like, did that really mean anything to you or?
Yeah, it definitely did. And to be honest with you, it probably helped us out, but not fighting all the time. If he was an offensive line coach, my dad would have been on me all the time about every little thing I did from individual. He wasn't able to see all that stuff because he was coaching his own guys, right? Yeah. So I think that it helped the whole dynamic. It was good to have him around as a coach, but it was good to not really have him as an offensive line coach.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I feel like you kind of need, I think it's obviously super important and sometimes advantageous for you to have like your dad in the coaching staff and stuff like that, but like you still get that freedom to kind of do your own thing. I feel like there's you need a little bit of space to kind of grow into who you are.
Yep.
I'd see that a lot of times with some of my friends who whose parents were their coach, and kind of it felt like they were trying to live through their kids a little bit, and it kind of limits them because everyone's a little bit different, and no one wants to just be their dad. You know what I mean? Like, everyone wants to be them. So, I think that's really important. I had your dad coached me a little bit freshman year with freshman football, and I was telling you all the guys loved him. Always cracking jokes and stuff like that. But again, like, I always felt like it was pretty cool because he did help me with my DB stuff. But when I kind of told him like I want to be a receiver, it wasn't like devastating to him or any disappointment. Like, all right, go do your thing. And I think also that leans into how much we trusted prep and the coaching staff that was built there. I know you just mentioned Don Bosco going on a crazy run. I think that's kind of a little bit of a trend in the Big North, right? Like, Bosco will go on a run, Bergen will go on a run. Me personally, I never won a state championship, but we went back to back, and then they won the state championship the year before I got to prep, and the year after I left prep. So I think it's really interesting. What do you think? Do you think kids are getting like fatigued from going to one school and then winning, and then now I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna just go to the other school to beat them, or like?
I think it's a little bit of that, right? It's KD going over to Golden State a little bit, but it's also one of those things that you want to go to a good situation, right? 100%. You want to go to a place that is going to take you out of your comfort zone. You're playing against the absolute best, whether that's in practice, against your own teammates, but also traveling, right? Like, when you're a state champion, when we won our state championship in 2005, next thing you know, we have all these calls from all these different schools across the country wanting to play us, right? Yeah. This is the time when ESPN is starting to come out. Now we're on an ESPN game. Yeah. So I get it. You know what I'm saying? The more you win comes more popularity and comes more offers and success. But this whole thing's cyclical. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? When I was at prep, we used to smash on Bergen Catholic. You could put straight ahead. We used to smash on Bergen Catholic. But like now they're doing their thing. Yeah, they're running it right now. Doing some good stuff over there. Yeah, they're running it. But St. Joe's had their time. You know what I'm saying? I'm starting to see DePaul kind of come up. So it's all cyclical. I'm hoping that prep gets back on the other side of it. You know what I'm saying?
They're due. They're due. Yeah, they're due. Hopefully they're due. Some people get some opportunity and come down to Jersey City and make the city proud. But So, like you said, you did the state championships. You
One. We only had one. I wish it was more.
Yeah.
We lost a lot of state championships.
I'm saying you getting there.
We won one. Yeah,
I'm
we
saying
got
getting
there,
there. Winning it. Who cares about winning it?
We won it once, and then we lost sophomore and junior year to Don Bosco in the state championship, and then lost to Don Bosco in the semifinals. But,
seeding. It's kind of out of your hands. But so then now take me to what your recruitment was like. When did you start kind of getting that feeling in high school? Like, all right, I am going to be playing college football. When did offers start coming in? What was that like for you?
Yeah, so offers started coming in for me. I was a little bit of a late offer. I was closer to my junior year, right before junior year.
Okay.
Started getting letters around sophomore year. Whenever it's open for to get letters, it was a lot of questionnaires and come to our campus and stuff like that. But for me, man, I was very, very focused on just prep and us winning the state title.
Yeah.
And I just knew that, like, if I'm starting on prep, for 4 years,
I'll be good.
You know what I'm saying? I got the size and strength to do it. I'm going to get the looks. And that's kind of how it worked out. My first offer was from Pitt out in junior year. And the list ended up growing to around 20 schools or so when it was all said and done. But
was there the Big East back then?
I'm gonna age myself a little bit, but there was a Big East. It was a Pac-10. Wasn't a Pac. It's a lot.
Yeah.
We don't want to get into that.
So now, before we started the podcast, you talked about you only went on 3 official visits, being Rutgers, Wake Forest, and Stanford.
Yes.
So, you ended up going to Stanford, obviously. What was that recruitment like? Why Stanford?
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you. People were clowning me at first when they heard I was going to Stanford.
Yeah, I kind of remember it a little bit. I remember. I think it was Uncle Sam who was like Stanford.
It was like good academic choice, but like, do you want to play football? And that's kind of what a lot of like the other schools were kind of saying. Like, y'all will never beat USC out there. You guys play Notre Dame every year. Like, you're gonna go all the way out to the West Coast and pretty much just be a schoolboy. But I just knew my recruiting class was so cold.
Yeah.
And I was running into guys at the same junior days, at the same, camp invites that were like, oh, I'm getting recruited by Stanford. I'm actually going to take a visit out there. Or there was one guy, Shane Scove. Shout out to Shane Scove. He went to a boarding school out in New York. And I was like, this dude's like an all-American type player.
Yeah.
And he's the first East Coast guy I heard that was going to Stanford.
Okay.
And I met him at my University of Virginia visit on our unofficial, and he was like, yo, I'm about to commit to Stanford. I know you got the offer, look into it.
Yeah.
We ended up building a good recruiting class that ended up being, like top 15 in the nation.
Yeah.
By the way, the person that was recruiting me was Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll get in more into like Jim Harbaugh, but like really for me, my whole recruitment really came down to picking a school as if I was taking football completely out of the equation.
Yep.
What was the school I actually want to be at for 4 to 5 years? What brand do I actually want to attach to myself even when I'm outside of school as an alumni?
Yeah.
If everything goes wrong, if I can't play another down, if a coach leaves tomorrow, right? And, or if I'm just not good enough to play, where would I actually really want to go to school?
Yeah.
And for me, it was Stanford. I believe that, the football team was going to be real good, but to be honest with you, it was almost one of those things like, let me go secure the bag. And at this time, securing the bag was
your 40.
Going to your 40-year decision rather than your 4.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that also, I got to highlight, not to age you, but like the transfer portal wasn't a thing back then. Obviously, you could still transfer, but it was the thing where you had to take the year off, or you had to drop a level and then go there was no.
It was wicked. If you were going to transfer, you were possibly going to be sitting out 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll ask your coach to have release you on a waiver. Sometimes the coach wouldn't.
Yeah.
You couldn't transfer in conference.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
So like that decision coming out of high school I feel like it had a lot more weight than like what it would mean now. A lot. Now it's kind of like one and dones and going, kind of renewing your contract at this point, and we'll get into that stuff. But so you mentioned, Jim Harbaugh, obviously a legendary coach in the NFL and in college at this point, multiple different teams. What was that recruitment like for you from Jim Harbaugh? Like, did that play a role being like, all right, we have this storied coach, at that point you guys are still building his story, and adding to it. So, what was that like?
Yeah. So Jim Harbaugh in, 2008, 2009 wasn't the Jim Harbaugh that had, the stint over with the 49ers, the national championship at Michigan. He was an upcoming coach that had took University of San Diego up from the bottom of their conference, to a good season. And then at Stanford, they had a huge upset. I think it was one of the biggest upsets based off of where the prop bets were for the game, where Stanford upset USC at USC when USC was like a top seed.
Yeah.
So he showed some promise as a coach, but for me, I was going in very enamored by the school.
Yeah.
At first, and then I got to know him more. And anybody that has met, or even from your just limited interaction, just seeing him on TV, you could tell he's a very eccentric type individual.
He's a little different dude.
Completely different than a Coach Hansen.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Or what I was used to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, it took some time to really, he had some quirkiness.
Yeah.
Some of the things that they say he does on visits, like, he did check to see if I was drinking 2% milk or whole milk, and he probably would have judged me if I didn't have whole milk in the house. Like, it was just, like, little eccentric stuff that he would do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this was a person that I knew had a plan for the program and had a lot of confidence. Like, he was like, we're going to do all the things that we ended up doing, and all the things that Andrew Luck ended up being, which ended up being our quarterback, was exactly what he told me it was going to be. He had forecasted that, in 2008.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of my recruitment. It was like, I love this school, and then Harbaugh coming in there, pretty much what I thought maybe selling me a dream, but like I believed it a little bit.
Yeah.
And he was like, yo, you can get this top-notch education, and we're going to compete for the Pac-12 championship every year.
Which is crazy, like you said, like where Stanford was at that time, and then him telling you that, in the conference with Oregon and USC and stuff like that. It's like, to have that confidence in the way that like he believed in himself, kind of seemed like it kind of breeded confidence for you in what he was saying. You know what I mean? It's like when someone believes in themselves that much, it's inspiring a little bit.
Yeah.
And then,
I still take pointers from him and his example in terms of like being obsessed with your craft.
Yeah.
Like, this is a man that would wake up at 4 a.m., do anything to be great.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, shout out to Coach Harbaugh, somebody that's still a mentor to me to this day.
And before we, move on kind of what your process was, did you play both sides of prep at any point?
So if you ask my dad, he'll be a little bit mad at, probably my answer to this. I mainly played offensive line, to be honest with you. I did start on both sides my senior year, which was actually outside of the norm back then.
Yeah.
Back then, if you were a dog, you played on both sides.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but like, we so happened to have it at prep at the time.
Yeah.
We had 2 Division I type DNs. So they were like, listen, like, you can either play DN or you can play this nose guard and play guard, tackle, everything on offensive line on the other side. So I mainly was a offensive line specialist, but I did some defensive line stuff too.
Yeah.
Which is a regret of mine, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, looking at how like some of these guys are built now and some of their skill sets, I think a 3-tech would have been perfect for me.
Yeah.
During that time. Yeah. If I really would have like honed in on that with my footwork.
Did you have like a preference? Like, did you care to be on one side of the ball more?
That's a good question. Like, to be honest with you, most people at that time want to be a defensive lineman over offensive lineman.
Yeah. I feel like I'm not going to say it's easier, but like your percentages are higher, I feel like. You know what I mean? Like, I always think about it like, all right, tackle, if you have 10 plays and you give up 1 sack, like, you know what I mean? Whereas like if you're a nose guard or whatever and you have 10 plays and out of the 10 plays you get a sack, you're pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think Will Campbell had mentioned that too, or something like that. Like, you give up a sack, you're done, but you just get one. You all-pro type player. For me, I really looked at it in the sense of like, I like to know where I'm going, and I like to know where the play is, and I like to dictate what's going to happen once the ball snaps.
Okay.
Right? On defense, you're reacting to everything that the offense is doing.
Yeah.
For me, tell me exactly where this ball's going to go.
Yeah.
Tell me who I got to block, and to, this D lineman to that linebacker, and I'm good.
Let me just execute.
But if you get me over here, I'm in a stance. I don't know if it's a pass, a zone, somebody pulling. That wasn't my game.
Yeah. Okay.
But like, it was one of those things that you don't really know until later on. It was just one of those things that like, I was naturally better or like knew more or more comfortable on the offensive line side. So I didn't give my all to defense. But to be honest with you, my skill set, I could have easily been just as much of a savage on defensive line as the offensive line.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's an interesting question to ask you, like what you would prefer, because a lot of people, I feel like, tend to do what they're best at, and that's not always. And it's crazy. Like I was talking to one of my friends who doesn't really know too much about football. They're like, "Well, what's the difference?" And I'm like, sometimes you're better at something that you're not the best. Like that, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, just because you do it doesn't mean that's exactly what you want to do, right? Like there are a bunch of football players that want to play basketball. Yeah. Right. And it's like, if they were better at basketball or had that size, they would be playing basketball. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just kind of an all, different positions, different sports, different, jobs. Like, it's just all over, and people don't really think that it's, all in football. But, there's definitely some dudes that were like, all right, bro, if I was an inch or two taller, I would, I'd be tight end, or I'd be a DN. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that's interesting to talk about. So then now we can fast forward. You get to Stanford, you go across the country, literally, from one coast to the other. What's that like now that you're in, I don't know if you probably felt it, like you said, kind of getting that confidence from Coach Harbaugh, but going over to Stanford in like the golden age, or, kind of birthing the golden age of Stanford football, in my opinion, from, what I've looked at. And, because my perspective obviously is I'm, young. We have a 10-year age gap. So what, you're 18, 19. So that means I'm 8 or 9 looking at you, going to Stanford and, getting on these long flights. And I'm like, all right, like, this is crazy, going to sleep, waking up, going to sleep, waking up. But, watching you do your thing in California, was super, super inspiring for me. Kind of showed me that this stuff is possible. Like, obviously my dad didn't play sports collegiately anyway, but like you said, having Uncle Sib kind of lead that way, and then having you do it, in the sport that I wanted to do, it was pretty powerful. But yeah, so now you're out in California, you're at Stanford.
Yeah.
Kind of take me through, getting there, freshman, sophomore year, junior year. What was that process like for you?
Yeah.
And just kind of talk a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, it was an adjustment, in multiple ways, right?
Yeah.
Going from Jersey to California, I absolutely loved that transition.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful Palo Alto, the campus and everything, the palm trees going down Palm Drive, having foods for this first time I'm starting to eat sushi and starting to get into my California wave.
Yeah.
First time starting to hear, who Mac Dre is.
Yeah.
I heard who E40 was, but like trying to get into their music. So like you think about it as like, or most people talk about like, what was that transition like just from the football field? But just like transition as an overall individual was just a whole new wave. And then on top of that, you go from a situation in my case where I come straight off the gate, as a freshman starting at prep, and I don't get off the field the whole 4 years.
Yeah.
And now there's somebody ahead of me at my position that's an All-American. Yeah, he's going to be gone in a few years, but like you're going to have to sit back for a whole year and just lift the whole year, right?
Yeah,
and not playing any games. I've been playing football since I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
So like going through a whole year, watching my teammates play, being happy for them, but like having to cheer on the sideline.
Yeah.
Was not easy at all freshman year, but they literally tasked me to just get bigger and stronger during that time. I came in pretty prepared from prep in terms of like time management, you know what I'm saying? But they were like, bro, you blocking a whole different person now than you were, you know what I'm saying? Before you were blocking the kid over at Memorial High School. Now you going up against that dude, you're going up against the Leonard Williams over at USC, right? You're going against the Will Suttons at Arizona State. So you better get right. So like lifting, having, gaining proper weight,
clean weight,
all of that. And then going to school where you're going to school with individuals that like from just the regular students all the way to student athletes are all lit in some way.
Yeah.
Right? Like the students are like, before I came here, fun fact about me, I started a new farming tool or equipment back in my home in Iowa. And you know what I'm saying? That's going to pay my way through Stanford. Like those are legit the type of students that I was with. And then also going to school with individuals that like Michelle Lee, right? Professional golfer. And I'm sure, years later was like with like going to school with like a Ledecky or something like that. Yeah. It's like these other individuals kind of just made you up your game because you 100%. Never walked around at Stanford being like, I'm a Stanford football player. Like I can do. Everybody was like, all right, man, you're one of many. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? We're all
kind of exceptional at their
we're own, all 1% in whatever we actually hone in on. So I
think that's cool though. I mean, like you said, it gives you a unique college experience.
That's what I came there for.
Yeah, and that's what you want. Like you want to be challenged.
Yep.
Because it's only going to bring the best out of you. You know what I mean? It's not going to. I mean, obviously, it's going to make the experience a little bit different, but it's going to make it unique. And I think that's the power of a Stanford. Right? Yeah. But then I'm saying you guys were able to take an institution like that, where you have that type of exceptionalism, kind of top tier. Like you said, the 1% academically, but then you guys are also able to do that on the field. Yeah. Like, at the same time, I think that. I talked about it with Jalen Coker last episode. a lot of football is a balancing act, right? So like you were just talking about, you're coming from senior year, right? You played damn near every snap there was to play, never got off the field, and then now you're going and someone's telling you like, yo, we're good. And it's like mentally, you've always been a team first guy, right? You're like, all right, like I'll support you guys however I need to do, right? Because that's always been what you've done. But your way of supporting the team was going out there and balling. So now it's like, all right, there's a different way to support the team.
Yeah.
Right. But then at the same time, you're like, I got to get right. Right. Like now it's a challenge of like, are you selfish? Are you still, for the team? Or like, oh, like, was I only for the team because the team was for me? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's a little bit of like introspection. You kind of, because man, like not a lot of people aren't ready to go in there and just lifting weights. Right. Like a lot of people aren't ready to go, that Sunday through Friday being, the guy and then on Saturday watching. Right. And the crazy thing is also being ready. Right. Like at any moment you can be the guy. So it's like you got to get ready the same way. You got to get, prepared the same way. You got to watch the same film. You got to be locked in just because, just in case you get that moment and, because you don't want an opportunity to pass you by. Yeah. But then, game in, game out, and then kind of having that disappointment. But then even when, like, people don't understand, like, winning a football game and being disappointed in yourself is one of the, like, toughest positions to be in, right? Mentally, emotionally, and you're sitting there like, at least for me, like, I've been there kind of in my last years where I wasn't able to kind of contribute as much, but we were winning. We were undefeated my senior year. My role was kind of a little bit reduced, but I'm like, damn, like, am I selfish? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm trying to go to the NFL, but it's like, but we're winning. So like, I want to go for 200 yards a game receiving, but it's like, if we're winning, with me getting 2 targets, it's like, man, like, we're winning. Yeah. Like, so, I feel like there's a lot of questions that get asked, and you kind of have to figure out who you are as the football player, but who you are as a person. I was going to say, that's a huge life lesson. Yeah. Because you're dealing with that in the corporate world as well. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Being a team player, but at the same time, wanting to eat. Yeah. So, so like freshman year was a lot on the football field, wasn't playing, but we were having some team success. Yeah. We hadn't gone to a bowl game in a couple years, and we ended up having at running back we had Toby Gerhardt. Like that. Dog. Just absolute dog. Yeah. Who lost the Heisman Trophy race to Mark Ingram, which I'm still tight about, man. Like, we're not even going to get into that, but he came second in the Heisman. We went to the Sun Bowl, ended up losing Oklahoma, but that was the first time I'm starting to look around and like, this team's bringing a lot of guys back. Yeah, you're starting to see it. And that winner's mentality, when you start to like expect to win every game, it's just way different than being on that team like, all right, let's see how it goes. Like maybe we get the, a lucky draw. 100%. We went from that year to the next year, my sophomore year, my redshirt freshman year, being like, whoever come in front of us, we can beat. Yeah. Because in that year, we had upset some people that nobody, and we're like, we didn't even have that good of a game. We just beat USC 50-something to 20. Like, all right. Second year, we go in. By this time, like I said, at quarterback, we had Andrew Luck, right? Yeah. So, like, had some dudes. Had him at quarterback. Had Richard Sherman as a corner. Had Doug Baldwin. David DeCastro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these are all pro-type dudes. Yeah. That at the time, I'm just thinking, this is just, number 9 on Stanford football. I'm not even thinking this Richard Sherman. Yeah. But, man, we go into that next year, and we just keep winning. And then we look up, we like, yo, we like 6-0, 7-0. Yeah. We go into Austin Stadium and lose a heartbreaker to Oregon. Oregon goes on that year to lose to Cam Newton in the national championship game. But that was our only loss the whole year. Yeah. We ran it up, went all the way out to the Orange Bowl, had a great time, ran it up in Miami, had a good time in Miami. As you should. And then won the Orange Bowl against Tyrod Taylor and the boys over at Virginia Tech. Yep. Finished the year top 3 in the country. I'm like, okay. And then at that time, everybody's like, okay, obviously everybody's going to leave, right? This is before a transfer portal, so it's like, Luck's going to go to the league early. Yeah. Harbaugh's going off to, I think at the time they were talking about like him going to Miami Dolphins, especially since we had just won the Orange Bowl in Miami. So they're like, he's pretty much going to keep all his luggage here. Yeah, like it makes sense. Yeah. Man, we went into that, and mind you, I'm still riding the pine. That first Sun Bowl year, still riding the pine. Behind the dude I expected to kind of be behind. He was an All-American center, Chase Beeler. So we were having team success again. And then we go into our third year, and Harbaugh decides to go to the 49ers. He leaves, but Andrew Luck
decides to stay, which like everybody's like, whoa, you were going to be
Crazy.
That was the year. It was going to be Cam Newton. Either you or Cam Newton were going to be number 1 and 2. Like that was going to be the 1-2.
Just clear. Yeah.
Stanford being Stanford and Luck being Luck, he wanted to stick around for one more year. Yeah. We had a bomb squad coming back, and we did great that year too. Ended up tripping to Oregon again, at home this time, college game day. But we ended up winning all of our games. Decided to go to not decided, but we're selected to go play in the Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma State. They had a squad. They had leading at quarterback. Justin Blackman at wide receiver, absolute dog. Yeah, and it was like they had a much more, and we lost a heartbreaker. Yeah, an absolute heartbreaker. Yeah. Kicker missed a field goal in the fourth quarter. Literally, with time expired, we would have won the game. Yeah, missed it. We went into overtime. Our overtime rule is like you get the ball, then they get the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like we missed that first field goal. All they had to do was hit a field goal, and we lost. Yeah, it's over. Andrew Luck's like, yeah. So, at this time, I'm like, okay, this might be the end of our team success because now, the next year, Luck's going into the draft. We're losing David DeCastro, Jonathan Martin, a bunch of All-American type players. But I'm like, this might be my time. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? To be outside.
Now it's time.
And ball out. Yeah. And that fourth year, they a lot of people kind of counted us out as like they're going to have a down year. This is now because I didn't mention that when Harbaugh left, Coach Shaw came in. Yeah. It's only his second year, okay, you got one good year with Luck, but we'll see if you can hold on to it.
Yeah, see if it was all him. People always I feel like people always want to push either the blame or the success on just one person or one thing. Yep. Right? Like you get a new head coach and it's like, all right, you did it, but Andrew Luck. Yeah. Right? And it's like, all right, well, Andrew Luck's working with the coach, the coaching staff. You know what I mean? I feel like it's always... People try to, they forget it's the greatest team sport ever, right? Yeah. And all of it comes together to kind of make what, that ends up becoming the end product. But no, I think that when David Shaw came in, there were a lot of questions, right? Obviously, Jim Harbaugh did what he had to do, and got his promotion. So now you have this new guy. Were you guys in the locker room? Did you have a lot of questions? Were you worried, or did the culture kind of overlap, you know what I mean? Where you're like, all right, he can come in and kind of just take helm and, we kind of have this stuff laid out and, this is who we're going to be. Or at that point, were you more just like, all right, now I'm it's just me. You know what I mean? I'm focused in what was that kind of transition like?
Yeah. So, right when we heard that, this was again, kind of backing up because I kind of went through the Fiesta Bowl year. But we were like, listen, Andrew Luck is staying, which is great, right?
Huge.
And I think that something that the athletic director at the time, it was Bob Bowlesby. He actually had then left and then gone on later on to be the commissioner at the Big 12. But at the time, he was a Stanford AD, and I think he did something great. And I think most ADs should take from this book. He came up to us. He said, listen, we have two candidates. One that's internal, he's already in the Stanford staff.
And they basically just promote him.
Yep. Yeah. Or we'll get the best other coach that's available out there in the country. And the two, I believe, what I'm saying? I guess this is my little juice or spice to the podcast. I believe it was either Chris Peterson, that was the coach over at Boise State for a number of years before going to Washington. Had a bunch of success over at Boise. Yeah. I believe it was between him and Coach Shaw. And we all came together. We were like, yo, we don't want a new coaching staff up in here. We got our dog, Andrew Luck, here. Yeah. We got a lot of guys back, a lot of good talent back. We don't want to change our offense. Yeah. And we all voted. We had a vote. I don't know if our vote actually swung it one way or the other, but I know as a team, we wanted Shaw to be the next coach for Stanford football. And he ended up being the coach.
I think that's pretty powerful, too, because it gives the power to the players. Yeah. Right? And like you said, whether or not the decision was made based off of that, you guys will never know. But it's almost it feels as if it's your team, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of a lot of power dynamics within college football, and a lot of the stuff kind of happens outside of your power, and you kind of sometimes may feel like a pawn or just a part of the system. But something like that, allowing you guys to essentially choose who's going to lead you. I mean, in any other type of situation or setting, it makes a lot of sense, right? Yeah. You have all these guys are already doing a lot of great things. Kind of let them pick who's going to continue them to continue, like, on their path to doing great things. Only they know. You know what I mean? It's only you, 11 at a time on the field that are doing, the things that is bringing in success, right?
Yeah.
Like our coach, Coach Chesney, who's now down at JMU, he used to always tell us that, like, we can do everything that we can. Our job is to put you guys in the best place and best opportunity, give you the best opportunity to do what you have to do. But it's you 11 on the field, right? Like, it's your team. So I think that's a really powerful thing. I didn't know that you guys kind of had that agency a little bit to, make that decision.
Yeah.
But so also something I kind of skipped over a little bit. When you got to Stanford, were you a guard and then changed over to center? Like,
yeah. So there were some schools that recruited me strictly at center, which I think is pretty dumb. Like, to me, you should be recruiting an interior offensive lineman.
Yeah.
Right. If he's good enough, he should be able to know how to play right guard, left guard, and center. In my opinion.
Yeah. Versatility always is good, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you see how the league is and how colleges, people get hurt all the time.
Yeah.
People got to swap, both ends, But anyway, I was recruited by Stanford to be center or guard.
Okay.
At the time, there was an opening for after the center that was the All-American Chase Beeler was going to leave for me to take his spot. Ended up losing the starting position in spring ball to somebody else.
Okay.
Shout out Sam Swartzstein. He ended up starting at center. So I'm going into now, like we mentioned before, 3 years now of not starting.
Yeah.
And now I'm starting to doubt in my mind, like, am I as good as I think I am?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's only natural.
Yeah, and I'm coming from Jersey. Like, I'm not even representing Jersey the right way out here. I'm talking crazy. Like, I got family out here tuning into every single game. My dad's flying out every other game.
Yeah.
And I'm not starting. So it was a real rough time in my life at that time because it was just like I came out here to do something. I'm failing. It just felt like a failure. You know what I'm saying?
It's such a, like, you definitely own that. Like, I feel like you said, even though, like, no matter where you go, your dad's gonna support you and come out. But now he's getting these flights, he's getting these hotels, and all this stuff. Like, I feel like people don't think that we think about that stuff, but it's like, bro, like you're very aware of everything that's going on, right?
Yeah.
You're like, even though, all right, let's say like there's a game and like you may not play, right? That everyone was watching for you to play. So when they say, "Oh, good game," or they're trying to just show you love and kind of act like it isn't a big deal. You're like, bro, they know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and the longer it goes, the more it kind of eats at you. And I don't care how confident you are in yourself, and like understanding who you are, where you came from. When you're going to the next level, you going from high school, no matter, like, because think about it, you were in arguably the best conference in the country for high school football. So then going to college, you're like, all right, it's gonna be the same thing. I've been playing against guys and everything like that, and I'm a guy, right? Like you're like, I'm one of those dudes. Like, it's not really, because that's how it always was at prep. Like you said, going against the Boscos, the Bergens, the Joes, and whoever else in the conference. But it's like now to get to college and to not see that immediate success, it definitely tests you. It definitely makes you ask a lot of questions. And
ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And that was one thing I had to check too, because I was like, how many of these things are excuses?
Yeah.
How many of these things is like pointing the finger away from stuff that I could be doing better?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like it was also a point of like, no, I actually got to get in the trenches and actually make it to where I don't leave the coach any choice.
100%.
He's going to start me.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? Because we all have those situations, whether it's a coach that really recruited you and now he's no longer there.
Yeah.
Or you're dealing with a coach that you really kind of don't mess with like that. Or maybe he just doesn't mess with you for whatever reason. You don't even know what it is.
You're not always going to mesh. You know what I mean?
You're not
100%.
always going to mesh. And this before, we mentioned before, not being able to transfer freely. To be honest with you, there probably would have been some times during that time at Stanford that if I had the ability to, I would have thought about transferring.
Bro, 100%. Like,
but I stuck through it, and I think that it ended up working out because I always look at that example in other things that I do in life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That carried me through law school. That carried me through my work experience now. So I can't be mad at it. But it was rough, man. 3 years not playing much. And when you're a backup center, you don't really play at all.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no special teams to come save you.
Yeah.
And you get some plays on there. You're not even on field goal like that because you're not even a tackle like that.
Like you have to be ready.
So I'm meeting all these different people, fraternity brothers. Why aren't you out there? I went out to the game. Where were you at? And I'm like, I was number 65.
Yeah, definitely was out there.
You know, so yeah, it was rough, but we got to it. We got to it, and finally won that starting position. And when I say that starting position, like I mentioned, I had lost the center position.
Yes.
So now I'm like, I gotta change to a different position because this dude was only 1 year above me.
Yeah.
Not riding the pine until my 5th year.
Yeah.
So. Well, I only got 2 more years left anyway, so I might as well start this year.
I might
as well get mine while I'm here.
I gotta play.
But the left guard spot was open.
Yeah.
And was competing all throughout spring ball. I mean, like, I was over there taking extra snaps with the number 1 and number 2 quarterbacks 30 minutes before practice. After practice, getting all this extra work done because I'm like, I'm starting this year. Yeah. I don't care what. I don't know how this whole team's gonna look. We lost Andrew Luck and the boys, but like, I'm gonna start. Ended up starting at left guard that year. So was recruited center guard, started at guard that 1 year, my junior year, and then my senior year moved over to center.
So when you got that, what was that moment like for you when you won the starting job? Like, was it almost like it all paid off? You know, like, all right, like it made sense. You know what I mean? Like,
it was gratifying, but I also seen dudes lose their starting spot. Mm-hmm. And you also got to understand the expectations. I wasn't coming into Stanford that didn't have any bowl wins. Mm-hmm. I'm coming in, we done went number 3 in the country after Orange Bowl win. After that, we sent 2 first-round offensive linemen and went to the Fiesta Bowl.
Yep.
Now they're looking at us like, okay, Luck's gone. We don't want to – all the coaches like, we here to keep winning.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Keep getting paid, keep winning.
The standard's set at that point.
Yeah, like the standard's set. So now it's like, no, I got to reach the standard that Chase Beeler, that Andrew Phillips, that David DeCastro, Jonathan Martin already set.
Yep.
So, I mean, it helped me to be able to have that barometer to see where I need to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, I'm happy. But at the same time, I know if I get bull rushed into the 3rd row on this play against USC, I might not be back on this field.
Yeah.
So, and at Stanford, it was like the first game, they give you one gimme. They give you the San Jose State or UC Davis the first game. Okay, you do your thing. But I'm thinking it's a gimme. San Jose State almost beat us.
Yeah.
The first game. And they ended up being like top 25. Shout out to my San Jose State people. But like, that was a close game. Then the next game, we playing the number 1 team in the country. Matt Barkley and the boys are coming in, number 1 team in the country of USC. So, and now I'm blocking Leonard Williams and them on ABC.
Yeah, it's
so
real.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I went from like, dang, how come I'm not starting to like,
now I'm starting.
Okay, we here. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Nah, and I think that's powerful. Just to talk about getting to that point and just how really it gets. Again, we can talk about like the balancing act of all right, like I finally did it, but I didn't do anything yet. You know what I mean? Like I feel like, again, I was talking to Coker about it. Like there's just so much balancing, like in football. Like there's no like I did it. You know what I mean? Like, but there's no I'm out. You know what I mean? Like you're always just as in as you are out. As long as you gotta just keep your head down and work and stay prepared. But yeah, you did your thing. Let's go to your Stanford career. Comes to a close. Now you have an opportunity to go to the NFL.
Well, now you skipping over a couple things. Now we got to put out all the accolades.
Talk about it. Talk about it.
Because
let
that
us know.
4th year, we won the Pac-12 championship.
Okay.
We beat UCLA that had a squad. Brett Hundley and the boys, they were good.
Okay.
We beat them at home in the Pac-12 championship. Then went to the Rose Bowl and beat Wisconsin.
Okay.
So now I'm like, made it a little bit. Now I got a Rose Bowl under my belt.
Yeah. Okay.
That next year, I ended up moving to center. We ended up having a lot of preseason hype and all of that. End up going through. It was a rough year, to be honest with you, but we still found our way at the Pac-12 championship. Beat Arizona State at Arizona State to win the Pac-12. So now we gone to our 2nd Rose Bowl and run into Michigan State, man, and end up taking a heartbreaker. End up losing by I think round 3 to 4.
Yeah.
But it was a back and forth game and just lost it at the end.
Yeah.
So so that was you can't leave out the Rose Bowl chips. Come on, man. You can't leave out the Pac-12 chips.
That's fair.
See how they do you?
All Pac-12. We're not gonna leave that out.
Oh yeah, we was also all Pac-12.
Yeah.
We don't play games. Come on, man.
So again, you get your shot. Yep. NFL, Chargers.
Yes.
Obviously family.
San Diego
super
at the
excited.
time.
Yep. So, that was obviously amazing for you. I'm not trying to skip over anything. We're just getting a little tight on time.
Yep.
But you were there. They end up releasing you. Now at that point, what was that like? Kind of everything you've done at that point was football. You went to prep, got you to college. You're at Stanford, it got you to the next level. You're in the NFL, and then they release you. So now it's like, in that moment, what was that like for you? Was it like an oh shit moment? Was it like an eye-opening moment? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what was that like for you?
I think it was very interesting for me because I think those couple years of not starting at Stanford really humbled me to where like I really honed in and like really enjoyed each time I was out there on the field for those last 2 years. I honestly thought that those were going to be my last 2 years. I'm like, if I can't start at Stanford for 3-4 years, mind you, we had a lot of talent and stuff like that. Yeah. But I'm like, maybe I'm not an NFL guy. So like I made it to where college was my NFL. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So really NFL, once I got that call to sign as a free agent to San Diego Chargers, that was almost just a, prize on top of everything.
100%.
Right? So now I'm going in super grateful, super thankful, but also like, what else can I do? You know what I'm saying? Now I'm not, I can actually go out there and see how I stack up against these other NFL players. So I was ecstatic, but I was also like, how am I gonna get on this roster? You know what I'm saying? Especially as a backup center.
Yeah, 53 is not a lot.
Yeah, and at the time it was a veteran team. That was something that was really fun. Antonio Gates was still on the team.
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers was on the team. We actually messed around, had Dwight Freeney on the team.
So you were some legends.
King Dunlap. So we had like legends on the team. So I'm like, okay, I can't be too much of a fanboy, but it's kind of cool.
Yeah. No, I mean, a lot of people don't understand like what it's like to watch someone for your entire childhood, and then all of a sudden one day you walk in the locker room and you guys are supposed to be teammates.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't.
Weddle too. Eric Weddle was on that team. We had a bunch of just vets. I was just like, y'all are low key celebs to me, but
like, you know what I mean? Like, and again, I'm telling you, it's that balancing act. It's like, I'm paying respect. You know what I mean? You're a legend. But I'm here to do a job. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here to also,
maybe take your spot.
Exactly. Like, you know what I mean? So it's tough.
Yeah.
But so, after that, kind of your football career comes to an end, and you go back to school. You go to Villanova Law, and like, what took you? I know, like, you've been playing football your whole life.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're smart. Like. Yeah. So do you take that as like a challenge? Like you're like, all right, like I'm gonna go to one of the best law schools. You know what I mean? Like, or do you always kind of have like, I want to be, I don't know. Like me personally, this last year I got released. The last thing I was thinking about was going back to school. You know what I mean? Like, so what kind of led you to that? Right.
So when San Diego, when the Chargers cut me, it sucked, right? Yeah. Like, I'm like, I want to play in the league. You obviously don't think I'm good enough. I was still, I had a pretty good camp. So I was like, maybe somebody signs me to practice squad. So I was still training. And I actually took 2 years in between my time at the Chargers to Villanova. One, to study for the LSAT, figure out which schools, get all my recommendations and everything together. But it was also a situation where I was like, dude, I have this great Stanford degree, but I really don't know what to do next with it because my life was so wrapped around football. Yeah. Right? And I knew that I wanted to still stick around sports somehow, but also utilize this great degree that I have from Stanford as well. So started to think about more things. What's the things that I think about when I wake up? You know what I'm saying? When I'm not thinking about the money and just like, what do I really, really care about in this world? And like, outside of my other interests, one of my main interests is athletics. Yeah. Right? And it wasn't just my time playing. It was also the full festivities around it, some of the activations, the TV stuff that was happening, coaching side of it. And I started, also going out there because I'm like, I'm starting to transition from being an athlete to a professional now. So now I'm starting to talk to alumni. I'm talking to guys that were once football players and how'd you make that transition? And, they're like, yo, you should think about going to law school because most of the jobs that you want to potentially have, whether that's to be an athletic director or commissioner of an athletic conference or, a lot of these different positions all have people that love a law background. If you want to be a sports agent, it'll be great for you to be able to read contracts. Yeah. So I kind of came into it like, okay, I'm going to do this, get my law degree, working somewhere in sports to probably be an agent. Yeah. And at the time, and still Villanova has a really good sports law program where I was like, okay, I'm going to be learning my regular law school classes, but I'm also going to be learning outside the box and how to apply this to sports organizations and
like something you actually want to do.
and sports events.
Yeah.
And, shout out to Villanova. They gave me a great education. Also gave me some great experiences. I was working with Villanova's athletics department to kind of get my foot in the door.
Yeah.
Also working at Temple's athletics department. I always tell people that are lawyers trying to work in sports, you better be willing to work for free.
Yeah.
I was knocking on everybody's door during law school, like, man, do you need some free work? I'm a lawyer. I don't really have much work experience because, as a football player, you don't have, I didn't study abroad. I didn't have too much work experience.
You don't have that luxury.
I was like, listen, man, I played ball and I got a great degree.
Yeah.
And now, I'm also going to get, learn more from a legal standpoint. That's kind of exactly what I thought I wanted to do, was exactly the type of work that I ended up getting into, which is sports law, so to say.
So from there, you go MOGL.
So from there, I actually go right out of law school, take the bar exam, pass the bar exam, but I go out to Indianapolis.
Real quick. That's very tough. Continue. The bar's not easy.
It's definitely not. It's definitely not. We could have a whole podcast on that by itself.
Yeah.
But I actually went to the NCAA on this thing called a postgraduate internship. Anybody that wants to work in college athletics, I'll definitely recommend looking into that internship. Gave me so much exposure into college athletics, into other jobs in sports. And during that time while I was at the NCAA, SB 206, the bill that comes from California to start NIL, comes to fruition. So I began doing some NIL work at the NCAA. And this is around when COVID's happening, so people are starting to get laid off. I ended up leaving the internship a little bit early to go work at Stanford Athletics in their compliance department. And really, that was my beginning trajectory, being a lawyer with NCAA and compliance background and knowledge base. And that really helped for NIL at the time because nobody really knew the rules. Yeah. And now there was all these stakeholders, whether that's a third-party brand, agents that all need to know these rules. So I was like, I know a guy. It's me. I can give you, pretty much the game on how
perfect
to
opportunity. Like it's like seamless.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of those things. You got to seize the opportunity. I saw NIL as a great opportunity to advocate for the student athlete because that was kind of my mission, to advocate. At the time, I thought it was going to be through being a compliance officer or one day being an athletic director, but right now it's looking like it's advocating and working with them on their NIL deals. Yeah. So worked at Stanford, and then Brandon Wimbush, T-neck GOAT, St. Peter's Prep GOAT,
Notre Dame GOAT, UCF GOAT.
We love you, Brandon. He was working at he actually co-founded MOGL with Aided Sayel, and they reached out to me like, listen, we need a lawyer. We need somebody that has done this on the ground level from a campus standpoint to educate our athletes, but also to educate us on some of these compliance rules. Yeah. So I was doing, some of the beginning athlete education programs. Hey, this is how you file your taxes. This is a type of social media post that you should post. Yeah. These are the rules that you should look into if you're going to work with a brand, right? Which really opened up the door for me to do all this work that I'm doing now at NIL. Yeah. And WME, the place that I'm at now, the top sports and entertainment agency, reached out pretty much saying like, listen, we're going to start doing more in this space of NIL. We'll love for you not only to help educate our agents. You were educating schools before and brands. Now we want you to help educate our agents on some of this NIL rules and also help with some of the negotiation of contracts. So currently my role is called a business and legal affairs executive for WME Sports. And I negotiate contracts for NIL clients as well as answer any NCAA compliance questions.
That's pretty awesome. And I think that, listening to that, it just seems like it was already written, right? Like how everything kind of seamlessly just like leads into the next thing, transitions into the next thing. And it's just perfectly, with the times, basically what was needed is something that you could give every time. It was like, I don't know. I don't think you could plan it any better. Yeah. And, to get you where you are now and where you're going to continue to go, I think that that's really awesome. Again, like we could definitely talk about NIL for a long time. It's, again, a growing space, a new space, a lot of money, young kids, there's agents and all this stuff. A lot of stuff that a lot of people don't know, it's a lot of ambiguity. And I think just because it's so new, like the law that I guess a lot of the stuff is still being put in place. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting though. Obviously, a lot of stuff you see on social media. This kid's going here for the X amount of dollars and all that stuff. It gets kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is changing the landscape of college sports. It's changing the idea of amateurism. It's changing, the idea that they got rid of the national letter of intent. So I feel like it's kind of leading more towards like a contract or, kind of becoming more of like an employee.
It's a business relationship. It was always a business relationship at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They weren't just giving us scholarships out of the kindness of their hearts.
Yeah.
They saw the return of investment for every single scholarship they gave out. But even more so today, man, like the opportunity to these kids and like kind of on both ends of the deal, really looking at this as a business now.
Yeah.
And I always tell guys, I don't know how you're working in the space without a representative, right? Whether that's an agent. I personally think that at this stage, especially in NIL, more individuals need lawyers than anybody because these contracts that they're signing are just so non-talent friendly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just really trying to take all of your IP.
And if you've never seen anything like that.
If you've never seen anything like
How do
that,
you know?
or even if you give it to a lawyer that's never seen this type of contract, right? So many times I'm negotiating against somebody that, oh yeah, my cousin just so happens to be a lawyer. It's like, have they seen a sports or marketing contract? Like, nah, but they could probably do this. It's like, yo, these are your IP rights. These are real, like, when I say IP rights, these are intellectual property rights. These are rights that you own, like owning your name.
Yeah.
If you have a trademark out there, right? Like, those type of things. So, yeah, I mean, in my current role, I absolutely love it because it's like I'm advocating and helping these student athletes secure and protect the bag. And then on my end, it's absolutely fun to be able to be a lawyer but also work in the sports space.
So I have one more thing, but before we do that, I'm going to give you kind of your open space right here. You can look to that camera. If you were to give, a young athlete, whether, they're a 5-star or 3-star, whatever, they're about to go to play college football college sports in any sport, where NIL is involved, kind of what would you tell them, trying to help them the best you can, kind of just in your, I'm giving you a space. This is your.
Yeah, I would definitely tell any NIL client or prospective client to stay educated in the space. Do your research. One place that I look at a lot for a lot of research is actually Twitter. There are some great lawyers, one by the name of Mitt Winter. There's also Darren Heitner and a bunch of other, Christy Dosh, a lot of great attorneys. I'm even on Twitter that talks about the space and really educates people on all the new trends of NIL. I would also say to hire a representative, whether that's a lawyer or an agent, to speak and also advocate on your behalf. Right, these are contracts that are worth a lot of money, and you want to be able to be protected in that. And lastly, I would still also very much keep the main thing in terms of being great at your sport. The money doesn't run out if you stay competitive on the field or on the court. As soon as some of the off-field things start to affect your play, you're also affected in your pockets, and you're affected in the amount of schools that also want you. So as much as, it's important to market yourself, the best way to market yourself is to go out there and ball out.
That's great. I think that's real. I mean, keep the main thing.
Yeah.
So we're gonna finish up here with, we couldn't let you come on here and not give your St. Peter's Prep top 5. I kind of gave you, we talked about it a little bit before we started the podcast, just so you could think about it. I'm not putting you on the spot, essentially, but
you're definitely putting me on the spot.
Just a little bit.
I'm gonna get so many calls, like, really, dude?
Yeah.
Like, what about me?
Yeah, I told you right before we started. Your dad texted me after I dropped my top 5 last time, and he's just like, "Yo, do I got to send you some film or what?" And
my dad was a dog.
Yeah.
I mean, we were gonna do a pre.
It's just hard
1990s. We can probably put him in, but
there's so many eras. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff that we're not going to know. And there's like even the stuff now, it's so hard to compare. The game's evolving.
Yeah.
But I think that's why it's
extremely
fun.
hard.
That's why it's fun to do this exercise. You
it
know what
is.
I mean?
And first off, hats off to Coach Hansen, Big Hansen and, the current coach, Rich Hansen. I mean, we've had so much talent go through the doors of prep. So it's almost impossible to do a top 5, right?
Yeah.
I'm put a disclaimer out there. I'm going to start kind of from, individuals that I saw play at prep. If I hadn't seen you play at prep, then I can't really put you in the rankings.
That's realistic, though.
Yeah, and I started watching prep football around 02. I'm starting to age myself a little bit, 02, 03. So, yeah, I'm going to start off first with the GOAT. I don't think that there's much of a debate. I don't think there really should be a debate. But Will the Thrill Hill
can't beat
is the GOAT.
Unanimous one.
He brought the most amount of popularity, also just an absolute dog on the field. One of those guys that literally could throw a 70-yard pass or give you a pick six or even return, and he's done it in the same game. I don't think I've seen a better football player with my own eyes. I've seen a lot of high school football.
Yeah.
Especially in the state of New Jersey. The only person that I even want mentioned around Will Hill's name when it comes to high school football is Jabril Peppers.
Jabril was crazy.
He was absolutely, So we're not even going to get into that. We about prep people. So GOAT, Will Hill, absolute dog.
That's one.
The next two, give a shout out to my T-neck brother again, Brandon. We give you a lot of shout outs today. Brandon Wimbush, Gatorade Player of the Year, won a state championship. Probably should have won two if he didn't get injured.
Yeah.
T-neck. You know what I'm saying? We both from T-neck.
Yeah.
I kind of see myself as the OG.
Yeah.
That's my one contribution. I was a good player, and I brought Brandon Wimbush, and I brought him to prep. All right? Keep that on my record, all right? Brought two GOATs in. You show love, so I'm going to throw you in there, too. He showed love to the offensive line when he did his top five. You feel me?
I'd appreciate
so that. So that's three right there. I mean, and Ayir, I absolutely loved seeing you at prep and at Holy Cross and at Wyoming and the stuff you're doing right now, man. It's just like, I still look at you as Lil Cuz a lot of times, but it's like, I got to get off that because Lil Cuz is really, really him at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, each time is like, stop that. Like, Cuz is really him. And that started off like, even before prep, but really at prep was when I was like, oh.
Yeah, because you used to come to the Pop Warner games.
I used to come out to Franklin, you know what I'm saying? Catch the Pop Warner game. Shout out to Franklin, New Jersey. It's like, and I was like, okay, he's good. There's this other guy on the team that might be better than him on Franklin, so I don't know.
Jordan Davis.
He was nice. But also, even, there was a few others that were nice.
We had some dogs. We had Nate, we had Jalon.
Y'all had some dogs at Franklin.
Sheeta. We had some dudes.
Yeah, but, you come to prep and, you, Chase, and Masai, you guys absolutely balled out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's
you got two more spots.
I know. So Minka Fitzpatrick.
Easy. I was gonna say you can't leave Mink out.
The thing is, there's so many good players. I'm
saying now one spot
We're
left.
getting to it. Yeah, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard not to Mink. What else can I say about him?
Yeah.
State champion, goes to Alabama, absolutely exceeds expectations. Still balling. Probably the richest one out of all of us.
100%
by far. I don't even know. Probably he definitely richer than me. So, and then my last one's so hard.
Because you played with a lot.
I did. And I'm gonna pick somebody I played ball with. I'm gonna have it as a tie.
Okay.
Between Savon Huggins, as well as rest in peace, my running back Kier Griffin, man. Kier was just such a dog.
Yeah.
And like I saw everybody, you know what I'm saying? There's not too many guys that were dominant as an offensive player and a defensive player.
Yep.
And Kier was one of those guys as a running back and a corner. I believe he got the game-winning interception when we played Bosco. Like, he was going to make a play no matter what.
Yeah.
Absolute dog. And then Savon Huggins, Gatorade Player of the Year. Shout out to Huggy, doing his thing over at BC. So, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I kind of gave you more than five. I'm like, I'm not mentioning Mike Brown. I'm not mentioning Rashawn Jackson. I'm not mentioning the Simon brothers. I'm not mentioning me. I'm not mentioning.
It's a lot, but that's why I like to do it though. You know?
Yeah.
But again, I appreciate you for coming on the podcast. We've been trying to get this done. Your schedule, my schedule. Amazing, we're able to match it up, get it done. So I'm gonna use this opportunity to say thank you guys for you guys tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. Like I said earlier, we've felt your support. We felt your love. We're going to continue to put out great content. And I guess we'll see you in the next podcast, Derail Conversations. And if you guys have any questions, you can follow me. Instagram, Ayir Asante. Twitter, Ayir Asante. TikTok, Ayir TT. Snapchat, Ayir Official. Been posting a lot on Snapchat. They verified me on there. So, we're having a lot of fun posting stuff on there. You guys have any questions, drop it in the comments below. You guys can reach out to me on all those social medias. I get back to anyone that wants to talk football. You guys want to offer more questions. You guys want to, tell me something I'm doing good. Tell me something I'm doing bad. Someone you guys want to hear from, get on the podcast, whatever. We'll set it up. Let me know. And as always, it's been a great time. Catch you guys in the next episode.